Hello, everyone. It is Jamie Joe right here at Madlet Musings, and today I have with me Shelley Shepard Gray. Hey, Shelley.
Hey, Jamie, how are you?
Good. I'm so glad to have you here. And for readers who don't know who you are a New York Times and USA Today best-selling author of more than 100 books.
Yes, ma'am, I am. Yeah,
I
yeah.
I did not realize you'd written over 100 books. That is super impressive.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I just I like to write.
Yeah,
Now it almost feels like, boy, I've been doing this for a long time. But yeah, over 20 years I've been writing.
so
So
cool.
really exciting and phenomenal to me. I didn't think I was going
Yeah.
to sell my first book. So to 100,
Uh,
100 and some odd books later, it's just it's amazing.
It is. It's so cool. And it's such an accomplishment too. And then you also realize at some point that you're like, wow, I must be a storyteller because I have had over 100 to tell.
I know, it's kind of funny sometimes, like, I don't know, a neighbor, somebody will go, doesn't your mind like blank by now? And I'm like, no, I'll still see something and I'm like, oh, that would make a great
Right.
book. So,
Yeah.
but I think that's why we're writers. That's, I can't do a lot of things, but I do like to make up a story. So.
Hmm. Yeah. I relate to that comment. My children are like, Mom can't cook, she can't feed us, and she can't keep us alive, but she can write a good story.
That's right. That's right. We can't do it all.
No, no, no.
So, uh,
Oh, fun. So you have a big day today because this is actually the release day of the book that we're talking about today, which is called Unforgiven.
it
So congrats.
is. Thank you. Yeah, I've got the book here and I'm really
Good.
proud of it. I think it's a gorgeous cover and I just like everything about how it looks. But yeah, it's rare to get to speak to somebody on book release day.
I
And
know.
you I'm sure you feel the same way. I mean, sometimes it's like everything aligns and you can go out to lunch and you'll be like, this is
Right.
great. And sometimes it's just like, oh, yeah, this is happening. And then just moving on with your life. So it's fun
Exactly.
to get to take a moment this morning and really talk about it.
Oh, I'm excited and I'm honored. I think it's so cool that you can celebrate and we can celebrate with you and talk about Unforgiven, which, yes, the cover. Can we talk about that? Because that is such a stunning, suspenseful looking cover.
Oh, I know. I was so excited about it. And I'm gonna butcher her last name, but the cover artist is Laura Klinster, and I Klinster maybe. Anyway,
Okay.
I knew her. I got to see her do a photo shoot for some of my covers, maybe 8 years ago.
Okay.
And then when I came over to Ravel, and she ended up being the cover designer, and so I kind of feel like I know her.
That's awesome.
And so it was really exciting when she sent me the first idea for this cover and she was like, "What do you think?" And I couldn't believe it. I mean, sometimes I'm like, "Well, maybe could we do a little bit of a tweak?"
Right.
But I just said, this is I couldn't have dreamed it to be any better." So,
Yeah, it's just lovely and I love that. I mean, it's Amish, correct? I mean, it's still within the
it
Amish
is my
genre.
it is. It's set in an Amish community, which I've been to quite a bit, and it's in southern Kentucky called
Okay.
Crittenden County. And it's really different. If somebody pictures like an Amish community,
Hmm.
it's not Crittenden County in their
Okay.
mind. It is just rustic and just there's a holler, there's trees, it's kind of dark. There's windy roads, the signs in the Amish community. If you take old pieces of wood, whitewash them, get out some black paint, and hand paint the name of the streets, that's what you'll see.
Oh,
And
wow.
that is the Amish community in Crittenden County. And so it was a terrific place to set a romantic suspense story and also to have everyone's almost in isolation. There's lots of space. So to
Yeah.
have this book focuses on two people, former Amish, and they are still living in the Amish community. They weren't shunned, but they just really aren't part of the group, and they're living alone, but they've got a lot of things they're trying to get over. So
Yeah.
that's kind of a fun scene and a good setting for this book.
That's so cool. I love that. And I didn't realize you see that's one of the things with your Amish stories that are so interesting. You always pick these or seem to pick places that don't connect in my brain as Amish. Like your last series was in Florida, which is
Right.
not typically synonymous with an Amish community. And now you have kind of like the rustic Kentucky area, which also I don't think Amish when I think Kentucky, which it might just be my own ignorance, but
No, this Crittenden County was a setting of a series I wrote years ago, over
okay.
10 years ago, and it was called Secrets of Crittenden County, and it all began with a murder. And so it always just kind of resonated with me. I vividly remember pitching it to my editor, and she
Okay.
kind of gaping at me like, "What do you mean you want to start that series with a murder?" And it's all I went out there several times. I even got to go out there for when I launched the series,
Oh, neat.
and to the Crittenden County Library when we concluded it. So it's just close to me. And when I started thinking about this new series, I was like, you know what? It's there's a lot of good things that happen, and it's not necessarily a downer of a book, but it's kind of serious, and there's
Yeah.
some serious things that happen. And I wanted a little bit of a different place, maybe not so idyllic where you imagine, happy Amish people clip-clopping around in buggies.
Right.
This isn't that place, at least not in
Yeah.
my book.
Yeah. No, it definitely has. And I think the cover does a good job of giving that vibe. Like there's definitely the Amish element to it, but then there's this darkness, this suspenseful. And I don't know if a lot of readers understand that you've also written quite a lot of suspense in your career too. So it's not like the merging of Amish and suspense is unnatural for you.
Right. No, I've written contemporary romance with suspense.
Hmm.
I years ago I did a historical series set against the Chicago World Series, and it was all mystery and suspense.
Yes, I read it. I
Did you?
loved it. Oh my
Oh,
gosh, yes, I
oh,
devoured it.
oh my goodness. Well, I'm no suspense writer like you are, but I do enjoy it. And I love to read it. And every once in a while I'm just like, you know what? This is kind of what I'm feeling. And for these characters in this whole series, um, it was just a lot of fun and challenging. I think
Mhm.
when we've all been writing a couple of books, a lot of books, it's you just want to keep growing as a writer, and
Yeah.
this is one of those books that it pushed me hard.
Mhm.
I really wanted to do these characters justice, and I was it every day writing it, and the revision process wasn't exactly um, pain free, but I was so pleased when I read the final proofs. I'm like,
Mm.
wow, this turned out pretty good. I'm pleased with it. So I'm excited for readers to read it too.
Yeah. Yeah, this is exciting. And okay, so one of the things that I think is really unique too about this book is your hero, Seth, is actually an ex-convict, correct?
He is. And have sometimes I think people wouldn't believe the conversations I have with my Amish friends.
Okay.
And this is one of them. I called her up and I said, and I don't always talk to her about what book I'm reading, but writing, but I was sure on this one. And I'm like, okay, so I need you to imagine this. And I said, and I was telling her all about Seth. And I said, this is why he went to prison. Would he be shunned right away? And I was expecting her to say, Shelley, he went to prison. Yeah, he
Hmm.
can't be
Right.
Amish. We're nonviolent. And she was like, no, if he could be forgiven,
Hmm.
if his heart is there, and it's not like, he went out, he wasn't a serial killer. What happened was she didn't
Good
say that.
clarification. That's a good clarification though.
What did happen without giving too much away,
Mhm.
readers find this out very, like, first chapter in the or second in the book, is he was in a fight with someone. He was saving a person. The person he hit fell,
Mhm.
accidentally died. He
Yep.
didn't he didn't have a lawyer. He didn't know what he did. He partly thought he was deserving of being punished,
Mhm.
and so he was sentenced to a few years in prison. And so anyway, so I was relieved that
Yeah.
he wouldn't be shunned right away, but I also firmly believed in my made up fictional Shelley world, he's just not ready to be 100% Amish. He's just
Yeah.
he's done too much and he's
Mhm.
experienced too much. So he is the what you realize from the very beginning about Seth is he's trying to repent for his sins by helping other people, especially Tabitha Yoder, who
Tabitha.
was his former teacher, and he always
Oh,
kinda had a crush on. So there you go.
that's
Yeah.
kind of cool. Wow, it's so interesting because you've got the Amish setting and then you have somebody and this is going to really show my naivety, but you don't picture Amish people committing crimes even accidentally.
Well, see, that's good. I think it's good. Like
It
you,
is. It's a
you, you
twist.
don't, you don't look at a group of people and think, oh, they would, ever
Right.
do things. Nobody. You don't ever want anyone to.
No. Mm-mm.
But you're right. I do think that is a misconception, especially people forget just how
Hmm.
many Amish there are in the world. I mean, in Holmes County alone, there's the last census I had heard about it was there were 40,000 Amish.
Wow.
Well, you take 40,000 of
Yeah.
anybody,
Hmm.
somebody's not going to be quite right. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
some people are going to gossip. Some people
Hmm.
are going to, just cast stones. You name it.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of
Hmm.
any kind of group, and I don't think the Amish are any exception. And so for this particular book, it was kind of a stretch of having him uh, be an ex-con, but I kind of loved it. I love
Yeah.
that he was different. I love that
Hmm.
he had done enough and he had survived enough that he didn't take a lot of flack from a lot of people. He didn't really care what everybody said all the time, or he was kind of beyond trying to save his reputation.
Yeah.
So he really only followed his heart, and I loved that.
That's really cool. Okay, so then let's move into Tabitha's story now because she also has kind of an interesting element in that she has an ex-husband, if I'm reading that correctly, and he was abusive. Is that where she's coming
Yes.
out of? Okay.
And and that is again another conversation I had with my Amish friend. And I
Yeah.
was on the phone with her, so I couldn't see her expression, but I have a feeling she was just like, wow, okay, ex-cons and divorced Amish wives. And again, and she was a little bit trickier because the Amish don't believe in divorce, and really they don't. And
Right.
and usually, if you do divorce, then you are not going to be Amish anymore.
Hmm.
And what some people do in real life is if you don't get along, say you're not in love, they might live apart you
Oh,
know?
okay. Okay.
So they're not divorced, but they're not necessarily happily married. So I guess there's a lot of shades in gray, just again,
Hmm.
like any marriage, perhaps.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but with her, it was an exception because um, she just had a really bad husband. He was
Yeah.
horrible. And when she was Seth's teacher, she was young. And I've been in Amish schools where you can have two teachers teaching side by side, and the older experienced teacher might be 18 and the
Wow.
younger one 15.
Wow.
you think, "Oh, it has to just be like what we're used to." Oh, no.
Okay.
Because, you graduate in the 8th grade and you have
Yeah.
to find your vocation. And so Tabitha, when she was Seth's teacher, was young,
Okay.
not 15. I think I had her as 18,
Okay.
but she does get married. She's kind of like swept away and almost encouraged to marry this older man who is a little bit obsessed with her. And she has to quit teaching, and it breaks Seth's heart because
Mm.
he just thought like if she would just wait till he grew up a little bit, like they'd be perfect together.
Yeah.
And anyway, this guy is really bad, and he ends up in the hospital. She ends up in the hospital, loses a baby,
Hmm.
and a lawyer comes and convinces her that it's never going to change. Like she
Yeah.
can't pay for her husband to become nice.
Right.
He's not there yet. Maybe
Right.
one day, but not today.
Hmm.
And so she ends up leaving, and then she comes back because she really has nowhere else to go except this house that she was awarded,
Okay.
and that she had lived in, and it was run down, kind of a
Hmm.
rundown shack. And
Hmm.
she's not technically shunned. The community couldn't find their heart to actually do that, but she's definitely not part of the community.
Okay.
So,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, when I tell everybody about this, they're like, "Wow, Shelley, like this is kind of a downer of a book," but it really isn't. It's really
Right.
about friendship, and some just finding
Right.
themselves. But every character, I guess there's 5 characters in the book. There's not 5 points of view, but there's 5 main
Hmm.
characters that were all affected by circumstances that had
Okay.
happened, and they just are all trying to move on.
Yeah.
So
Hence the title, Unforgiven.
yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I think that's good though. I mean, there's so much need for different types of fiction. And there's always the love of the lighthearted, kind of comfy, cozy fiction that we like to read on a, comfortable Sunday afternoon. But then on the flip side, it's really important to have fiction that starts out potentially on a darker note, but
right.
then can bring people through a journey. And unfortunately, whether you're Amish or whatever people group you're a part of, we have brokenness in all of us that comes out in some of the ugliest of ways. And so the theme of forgiveness, I have a feeling with the title being called Unforgiven, is probably pretty thick in this book.
Yeah, I love the idea of so many people were focused on, oh, the community isn't really accepting me,
Mhm.
and so is only concentrating on like the worst period of my life, not my entire life, and or all the good I've done. But what each character ends up realizing is, the grace of God has already
Mm.
forgiven you.
Yeah.
But you also have to forgive yourself, and that's what's hard. Is
Hmm.
sometimes we're our harshest critics, right?
Yeah, that's so
And
true.
and and so that is just kind of in a nutshell some of the themes going through it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is. You're right. I think I love reading all kinds of books. I love writing all kinds of books, and I've definitely written many fun, happy Amish books with cute animals, and
Right.
just fun things abound. And I love those. It makes me happy when I'm writing them. But I think there's also a place in my writing life for books like this.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. And then the suspense comes in because, as the back of the book says, gifts begin to show up that can only be from Tabitha's ex-husband. So it sounds like there's a little bit of danger potentially involved in here too.
Right. I mean, and that's, if anyone listening is, a beginning writer or whatever,
Hmm.
that's almost kind of like suspense 101 is when
Hmm.
you're plotting it, is like, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Yep.
Okay, now let's take it a step further. And then
Right.
you just keep going and going. And how can we build on this too? Your poor characters are thinking it can't get worse. And then you're like, maybe it could.
Maybe it could. Maybe
We
it
gotta
could.
get 2 more pages to write. I think it could. So
I know.
it's
I know.
it's a long time ago when I first started writing, I asked my Amish friend, I said, you've read probably 12 of my books by now.
Mhm.
What do you have advice for me? And she said, Shelley, if somebody gets to want page 120, make sure they want to get to page 121. And that's
Mm.
what I've always kept with me writing is you
Yeah.
want to keep the story going forward.
Yeah.
And I think the suspense element is just it takes a writer's hand and just helps you do that. I mean, there is
Right.
no sagging middle. You just have to keep going because it's exciting.
Hmm.
Um, we before we got started talking, we were talking about kids and stuff. And I
Yeah.
remember when my kids were in college and they'd call and I'd be in the middle of a chapter and I'd answer the phone because it was them. I wouldn't answer the
Right.
phone for anybody else.
Right.
And
Yep.
then they could be like, Mom, what's going on? I'm like, well, I'm in the middle of a snowstorm right now. And I wasn't. It was in my book. And I'm like,
Yes.
do you need something? No, Mom, I'll talk to you in a little bit. I'm like, yeah, I'll call you at 5 when I'm done. And they're like,
Right.
gotcha.
Right.
So it's fun.
Yes. I totally relate to that. Sometimes I work downstairs and then my kids are upstairs and they're homeschooled and I'll go up for lunch sometimes and we'll be sitting at the table and my daughter will be like, Mom, you just seem so stressed. Are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. My characters are in quite the pinch and my brain can't get out of it. Like I need to
Right?
quick eat this sandwich and get back to my book.
I know. And it doesn't help. I mean, my husband used to tease me and he goes, you made them up, right? Like they can do whatever you want. I'm like, oh, it's out of my hands now.
Yeah, it
It's not
is.
that
It is.
easy.
No. Well, the book is called Unforgiven. It is written by Shelley Shepard Gray, and it is available at any point now because today is its release day when we're recording this. And you can get it at Baker Bookhouse, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and always support your local bookstores. We love those too. So
Absolutely. I'm excited about it and I hope someone might give it a try and if you have time, reach out to me and tell me what you think.
absolutely. And they can reach out to you at your website, correct? At
Sure,
Shelley Shepard Gray?
ShelleyShepardGray.com, and I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook. I guess I'm just about, if you want to find me, I'm fairly easy to find. So
We can find
I
you.
think you, right, right.
Wonderful. Well, Shelley, thank you so much for being here today. Everybody rush out and get Unforgiven so you can experience forgiveness in fiction.
Thank, thank you so much. I appreciate it.